Next component I want to talk about is the disk drive, and I'm trying to avoid calling it hard disk drive, but we do have hard disk drive. This is typically what a hard disk drive used to look like, the one on the right in blue. You can see that it is an electromechanical device. This circle in the middle that takes most of the size is magnetic, and all the information is stored on it. I'll make it bigger. All the information is stored on it magnetically. This is the head that is recording and reading from the disk. If you're dealing with a disk, one thing you want to make sure, a hard disk drive, first of all, they are a lot more susceptible to what happens if you drop the laptop, or the laptop gets heat or something, or even moved too fast. This is where you may start having errors, so they may have they're more prone to what's called crash. It used to really be that the head was crashing on the computer, on the surface of the hard disk drive. So this is the more traditional hard disk drive, magnetic or electromechanic. And then there is the SSD, or solid state drive, solid state disk. And solid state disk is just, think of it just like a big USB flash card or a big SD flash card. It's based on flash technology. There are no moving parts, which means it's a lot more susceptible. It's a lot, not susceptible, it's a lot more robust. It is less susceptible to being hit and losing data or crashing or anything like this. It is a lot faster, and they are typically more expensive for the same amount of storage. There are different types. What you see here is referred to as SATA. SATA. It has an SATA interface, and an SATA interface is slower. This is typically okay for your data disk, but not so much for your program disk that needs to be accessed a lot faster. For a program disk, you would typically have something that's using a technology called PCI Express, and it doesn't say anything here, but this NVMe M.2 is really what says that it's PCI Express. You can see it's a different form factor. It's smaller, much faster. This one is a 500 gigabyte drive. I've seen 1 terabyte. Actually, in my laptop, I upgraded and I got a 1 terabyte drive. And I can tell you that the difference, I could feel the speed difference, the performance difference between how my computer behaved before and how it behaves now. So once again, let's go to the website. This time we haven't done Lenovo yet, so let's go to Lenovo. And once again, we're going to go with laptops. They have different types of laptops. And of course, we're going to look for gaming laptops. This was right in front of us, gaming laptops. So let's hit gaming laptops and see what they have. And once again, we're going to kind of follow the price, follow the dollars here so we can compare. And so here's a laptop that they have that costs about $1,300. Let's see what it has. For $1,300, what do we get? We're going to click on it, and let's see. We get a 10th generation Intel Core i7 Edge processor. Kind of sounds like what we saw before. Let's see if there's more. Oh, guess what? It's the 10750H processor running at 2.6 up to 5 with turbo boost, 6 cores, 12 threads, 12 megabyte cache. It's the same processor that both HP Gaming and Dell Gaming had. But we're right now looking at the hard drive, and here's what we see. We see 2 hard drives. One is a 1 terabyte hard drive, hard disk drive, so this is the electromechanical type. And the other is a PCI Express SSD. In other words, one of them is going to look like this, except that it's a 1 terabyte, while the other is going to look like this. Now, when you are getting this kind of a computer, of a hard drive, there are a few other things that I want you to look at. And one, for example, is how fast does the drive run. This is the hard disk drive, not the SSD, not the solid state one. This is how fast it runs. They used to run, I think, at 3600 RPM rotations per minute, then 5400 RPM. Now they're running at 7200 RPM. I don't know if they're going to run faster. I think they're just going to be replaced by SSDs altogether, as the prices of SSDs get lower and lower to the point where it really doesn't matter. The difference is not that much. So I do expect these drives to go out. My laptop started with a 256 gigabyte SSD as the system disk, and a 1 terabyte, I think it was 7200 RPM hard disk drive as the data disk, or disk D. I ended up replacing this data disk with a 1 terabyte SSD, but using serial ATA, SATA interface, so it was a little slower. There was no second option to put a second NVMe PCI Express one. And I replaced the disk drive, the main disk drive, the system drive, from 256 to 1 terabyte PCI Express M2 NVMe SSD, which is very similar to what you have here. So when you're looking at disk drives, my preference is to always get SSD and SSD only. You need to ask yourself, how much storage do I need? And it really depends on what you're going to do with that computer. If what you'll do with the computer is only, I don't know, data applications, so office applications and things like that, you could probably get away with 500 gigabyte or 512 gigabyte total. You only need one disk. The computers I got my daughters and my wife have 512 gigabyte. That's enough. Actually, both my daughters' computers have 256 gigabyte, and it's enough for them for their college applications and the applications that they use. Once you're starting to talk about video and heavy applications, so first of all, the system itself, the software itself, if you remember when I looked at DCS as a software, the game, that required 120 gigabyte of hard disk drive just for that one application. You start talking about Adobe Premiere Pro and Photoshop and other applications, Microsoft Office, heavy applications, they're going to require a lot on the system disk by itself. Then there is the data. So what kind of data are you going to store? You know, Word documents don't take that much. PowerPoint take more. Once you start editing videos can be pretty darn big files. And in fact, I'll tell you that right now, my data drive is 1 terabyte. I'm less than 100 gigabyte away from filling that one up. And I'm starting to wonder whether I should get a 2 terabyte drive in there, although it's just going to be a matter of time before I run out of this, and or start offloading some of the videos to drives outside, to backup drives and so on. And since I did say backup, it is important that you back up all the information. One thing I will mention, and I can talk about Windows, Microsoft, or at least when you have an Office 365 account, you also have 1 terabyte of storage for their OneDrive. And that to me is important, because what it means is that everything that I store on my disk data drive, you can see that it's a cloud drive, and so at the time that I store it locally in my computer, it also gets stored in the cloud. So I feel pretty comfortable if something happened, knock on wood, I hope nothing does, if something happened to this laptop or to the drive, which is an SSD, that I will be able to just download it from the cloud and it's there. Just to be on the safe side, I'm also backing it up on 3 different local disks here, including a network disk.